Next question is from Tyler Lavasseur. What are some key strategies you have used to help improve client adherence?
Oh, okay. So this is going to be great for coaches, but also
shock
for
collars.
Yeah, if you don't show them, shock the shit out of you. It is effective.
Yeah. I've had clients ask for.
This is good for coaches, but this is also good for people listening right now who struggle with discipline themselves. Look, as a coach, and again, this applies to everybody, but as a coach, the most important thing you need to focus on with your client is helping them create this as a consistent habit. How can I get this person to adopt this lifestyle for the rest of their life? That's the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is not how do I get them the fastest results. The goal is not how do I make them the most sore? How do I beat them up? It's literally how can I train them in a way so that they eventually learn and want to do this for the rest of their life. And the first most important thing is you have to figure out how to create an experience that the client will find both challenging so that it's meaningful, but also enjoyable. Now, enjoyable doesn't necessarily mean pleasurable. This is where people tend to screw up. Pleasurable is also enjoyable, but there's lots of things that we do that are hard and challenging that we also find enjoyable because we, get new milestones or we learn things or we start to enjoy the process of growth. So when clients would show up for me, and this is later, because I didn't understand this forever, but later I figured this out. My job was to create that kind of experience for my client. And the number one was meeting them where they're at. That was the most important thing. People are ready to move forward when they're ready to move forward. In other words, they're ready to work out harder when they're ready. They're ready to change new things in their diet when they're ready. This doesn't mean you lie to them. You're honest with them. But if you push them beyond that capability, what'll happen is they'll eventually falter, fail. If they do that enough times, they're going to stop. They're not going to want to do this anymore. So it was all about meeting them where they were, being honest about the process, and creating that experience where they actually enjoyed it. And once I was able to do that, it was game on.
I mean, I love this question because it forces us to communicate where the root of a lot of our philosophy comes from, right? Like we have to take all the science and experience and stuff that we have in the health and fitness space, and then we have to take the behaviors, human behaviors of people, and like what makes them go, what demotivates them, what motivates them, and we have to find a way to be a very successful coach and trainer. You have to find a way to blend that. If you purely just go by science stuff like that, not everybody's going to follow and adhere to it. In fact, most people won't. So that's why when we give out information sometimes and there's like somebody who wants to count, oh, well, I heard this person say this. So it's like, okay, well, that's great. I understand that's what the research says. I also know the human psychology around that. And one of the things that I've learned through training clients also now from having a son and being a father and having self-awareness around the things that I like the stuff, the sports that you gravitated to, the board games that you like to do, a lot of the times it's because the experience you had, you enjoyed. A lot of times part of the enjoyment is you were good at it or you won, right? Like it's like you played that first time you picked up any that's played a sport, like that sport you were drawn to was the one you probably naturally were kind of good at or you had success with. So understanding that human psychology and how that applies to this. Here they are on this new venture. I'm going to go after lifting weights and eating better. And so you need to make sure that they have a good positive experience. One of the ways that you can make sure that happens is by stacking up wins. So a big mistake that trainers do is they want to teach them everything all at once. Oh, we're going to change this and we're going to do this and then you're going to start doing this and you're going to start doing that because their thought is like, oh, my client told me I want to get the fastest results right away. So you think, oh, I'm going to show them everything they need to do to get the fastest results. Like, no, the fastest results is a thing that's going to keep them consistent for the longest period of time. That's what's going to get them to go faster. And if you understand the behavioral psychology around people building and stacking these wins, so that's my goal. So my goal, to Sal's point, is meet them where they're at, which could be as little, Sal's told the story before of getting my client to read one page about nutrition, or it could be all I want you to do is 3 times a week, go for a 20-minute walk, or it could be, I just want you to show up to the gym 1 day a week. It doesn't matter. Or it could be someone who's already going 3-4 days and now you're adding one little thing, a nutritional tip, or you look at their diet and you see it's all over the board. Mm-hmm. They're not doing this, they're not doing that. Instead of changing everything, you go, I just want you to add 1 high protein meal a day. I want you to add 1 bowl of vegetables. Like find ways every week to give them these tiny little goals that you feel confident that they can accomplish, and then celebrate the wins.
That's it. And I'm so glad you're defining wins, because this is the other problem trainers make. They think wins means you got to lose 5 pounds.
No.
Or you need to add 10 pounds to the bar. Those are wins, but those aren't all the wins.
Yeah.
I remember, I remember this one conversation. I had a client who came back from vacation, and she was so upset. And I said, well, what? She's like, I failed. I mean, what do you mean you failed? She's like, I had dessert every night on vacation, every single night. And I said, okay. I said, I know your goal was to not have any dessert. I said, but what did you used to do on vacation? She's like, well, I would have dessert all day. I'd have dessert for breakfast. I'd have dessert for lunch. I'd have dessert for dinner. I'm like, this is a big deal. You only had dessert once. Notice how I reframed that. She's like, I had dessert every night. I said, you only had dessert once. All of a sudden, she was like, you're right. I totally did a lot better than I used to.
That's right.
That's a win.
We're moving in the right direction.
You have to help coach now, to the person who's listening, who's not a coach or a trainer, this is how you hack yourself.
Yes.
This is how you get yourself to create this relationship or this experience with fitness where you start to, God, I want to keep doing this. By the way, okay, I remember oh God, in the early days, sometimes I look back and I cringe at some of the ways I thought when it came to fitness. I remember I had this one trainer that worked for me, and we always gave her the really, really tough clients, like the clients that just didn't want to show up or whatever. And I remember there's this one lady she trained, and I don't know, 1 out of 3 workouts, this lady would show up, they would do one exercise, and then they go for a walk outside. And I remember thinking like, oh. And I mean, she was a good trainer, clients re-signed with her, so I at least was smart enough to not harp on her. But I remember thinking to myself, like, what a waste of time. Like, you're just going to walk? Like, that's so dumb. Like, later I realized the brilliance in what she was doing. This person showed up. To her, this was a big deal. Yeah. So they showed up. So what probably happened is she called, like, I don't want to come to the gym. What's the matter? I don't feel good. Listen, we don't have to do much. Let's do one exercise. Let's go for a walk. Really? I can just do that? Absolutely. And this person was consistent week in and week out doing that.
That's right.
Like, that was totally brilliant. So that's, in my opinion, the most important thing. Now, there's a lot of things you could do with the experience for the client. One thing I used to love to do when people would show up to my studio was I'd yell their name out. Hey, John, hey, what's going on? High five, hug. We'd have conversations. I'd make people enjoy. I'd switch the music to something that someone loved. I had a person who showed up who the stimulus was too high for them. So I had a separate room. I'd turn the lights off. We'd work out in there with no music.
Yeah, it's all individual.
Yes.
Like, each client has their own little unique characteristics and things that they're interested in. And that's what you gather in the very beginning is like, what are their interests? What do they do outside this? What do they do for work? What's their family like? Like, you're just having that constant dialogue so you can ask them questions that get them, because people like talking about what's going on in their life. Not a lot of people listen to, what's happening and then the latest thing that's happened in their life. Like, you don't have to just sit there and talk about, fitness and reps and nutrition and like, get over yourself. Like, this is another human being that just you're spending time with and building a relationship with. Obviously, you're steering the fitness and the nutrition and everything in the right direction, but that's sort of ancillary to what you're doing in terms of hanging out.
It's such a long play.
Be likable and build wins. Literally, be likable, build wins.
Yep.
Like, that's all you just.
By the way, do that to yourself if you're not a coach.
Yeah.
Be likable to yourself. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Don't beat the shit out of yourself when you go to the gym. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, I'm so fat. Oh my God, I'm so terrible. I didn't do as good. Oh, I should have worked out harder. Are you liking yourself right now? Why the hell would you want to show up and keep doing this to yourself?
And set wins like that to yourself. Like, every time I go from a kick where I would consider myself kind of off the wagon, where I'm inconsistent, or that, and I decide, okay, and I'm going to turn it up. I don't go full bore right away. It's literally every week I make minor adjustments. Just tiny ones, easy ones that I know, I haven't been walking at all after meals. That's all I'm going to do. Oh, I haven't been making sure that I'm getting that extra. Okay, I'm going to do that. And it's crazy. I still do that same reverse psychology on myself. Is I get that like momentum of building wins, and you know what? And it's inevitable you're going to have these setbacks. But when you're stacking small wins, the setbacks are really small too. Yeah. And then you get right back on. It's a lot easier to get right back on.
By the way, it's a very
clear
picture. It's actually an honest, objective picture. What happens is people don't even calculate or consider. They're not even letting themselves be aware of the small wins. They only focus on the big wins, which is the long win. And then all the small fails along the way.
So many things to point out.
That's going to paint a shitty picture. Of course, you're going to stop.
you.